Hello, this is Jim Pateo with Prop Shaft. I'm here at the 2025 Autorama with Jac McCormick. Jake's got quite a history in the sport. I'm going to let him tell you a little bit more about his history of boat racing. Jake, tell me a little bit about your background in boat racing.
Well, my name is Jac McCormick, like you said. Family history in boat racing. My grandfather was Jim McCormick, so we've been racing since the 60s. Took a brief hiatus through probably the 90s and 2000s, but I'm getting back into it this year after bringing the Madison Regatta back to its former glory.
So just for those who don't know, Jake's grandfather, Jim McCormick, drove the Miss Madison hydroplane to the 1971 Gold Cup victory in none other than Madison, Indiana. So it was quite the story. It was televised live on ABC Sports at the time. You had, who was it? The telecaster.
Yeah,
did all
was
the,
a little before.
no, he did all the football. His name escapes me, but Keith Jackson. So he was the telecaster at the race. He's obviously well known. And then they even made a movie about it. That's how special it was. So, Jake, tell me, you were commenting to me a little bit earlier today about how over the years you kind of got to know different sides of your father.
Well, yeah, growing up as a young man, I lived with Bonnie and Jim until he passed away when I was about 10. So I knew Jim McCormick, the grandfather. He sat me on his lap to drive his truck and taught me chess and took me to museums. And over the last 4 years, I've got to know Jim McCormick, the boat racer, through stories from people like Tony Steinhardt and Tony Black and some of the people that were around when he was around.
And then recently, what's also interesting to me is with the Madison Regatta being a race that's been around for many, many years, as one of the mainstays on the boat racing circuit, you now have some involvement in that as well. Tell me about that.
Well, so 4 years ago, I got involved with that. It was in pretty rough shape. But I like to say, have restored it to its former glory. 4 years ago, it had about 1,800 people in attendance. And when I stepped down this past year, we had over 14,000. And even more to the highlight of how well it's doing, we left someone else in charge who's probably far better than me, Kyle Bipes, and it's heading in an even better direction. They're looking at bigger music talent for the Rooster Tail Music Fest. They've got Dustin Lynch and Randy Hauser as headliners this year. We're going to have unlimiteds and more classes of boats in Madison than it's ever seen before.
That sounds great. It's fantastic to meet you today, and I'm so glad and so proud that you're able to take that Madison Regatta and put a little bit of life back into it, because I know it's been around ever since I was a kid, and I think it's just a great event. So thanks again, Jake. It was nice chatting with you today. And do you have any last words?
If you get a chance, go on apba.org, look under schedules, and go to race school. If you have ever wanted to pilot a hydroplane, it is one hell of an opportunity to get behind the wheel and see how hard you can push yourself.
That sounds great. I would also recommend that for everybody. So thanks again, Jake, and this is it for Jim Pateo and Prop Shaft. I know I mentioned that there was a movie made about Jake's grandfather, Jim McCormick. That movie was called Madison, came out in 2005, starring Jim Caviezel. This episode of Prop Shaft was presented by Blue Water Healthy Living, sponsored by the Grant Smith Insurance Agency, and produced by GBS Media.